wherever you may be. Welcome back for another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. Join your host, Bill Alvstad, and co-host, sports writer and football analyst Keith Myers as we talk Seahawks football.
Hey, Seahawks fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers. Welcome into the show, Keith, our game preview show.
Our final game preview show of the year.
Maybe.
Of the regular season.
There you go.
Maybe we can get some more if we get the right help this weekend and get the team into the playoffs. But the Seahawks got to win. The Lions have to beat Green Bay, and if those two things happen, Seattle gets in. We get to do another preview show next week.
Think about how crazy that statement would have been on week 1 of this year.
Yeah.
Coming out of your mouth. I mean, I'll be honest. Let's just break this down. In the leading up and after the draft, I was kind of excited, Keith. I was like, we traded away our best asset and our best defensive player nearly of all time. And I think we're going to be okay. We might actually win some games, and maybe the offense isn't going to suck. And the defense could pick up where it left off last year, and we could actually win 9-10 games. And you were like, no, that is absolutely crazy. Geno Smith is going to Geno Smith. And that was that. And over time, I just kind of fell into that. I mean, not necessarily fall into it, but I did enough of my own looking into it to come to any logical person's conclusion, which was Seattle's just not going to be that good. And we both came into the prediction show. You certainly weren't holding me to the fire, and I came in with the same identical prediction as you did, save different games, but we got to 5 wins.
Yep.
And here we are, Keith. We could get to 9 wins. Last year were 7 wins, and
they're already better than last year, despite trading away a Hall of Fame quarterback and replacing him with a long-time backup who did not look good as a starter early in his career.
Who says football isn't fun?
It's awesome.
Because that's about the best story in the NFL this year. There's just no question.
Well, I like when you're like, Geno Smith was going to Geno Smith, and what popped into my head was he did Geno Smith. We just had a wrong idea of what Geno Smith is.
Yeah, which is a great testament to him as a person, as a competitor.
He's worked so hard. He hasn't played, but he's been in there. He's been studying. He's been practicing. He's been putting in the work.
Gaining the trust and confidence of one of the best coaches in the NFL, Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
Who gave him a shot.
He has put in the work to show Pete Carroll, hey, I'm ready for this. And Pete Carroll showed a lot of faith in him when none of us did. I certainly didn't. I certainly was very wrong about what I was expecting from Geno. I was expecting him to just be mediocre. Had the offense was going to not move and not do anything. And at some point Geno would get benched for Locke, or he'd get hurt and Locke would come in, and Locke would have a couple of really good games and be like, oh, maybe. And then he'll throw 5 picks in a game. And we're like, well, yeah, that was fun while it lasted. And that was kind of my idea of what the season was going to look like. And it hasn't. They've exceeded every expectation. Geno Smith has exceeded every expectation. That rookie class has turned out to be phenomenal.
They still had their up and downs.
Yeah.
I mean, the offense has been up, then it's been down. Now it maybe is trending up again. The defense started awful, then it looked great, and then it went away, and now it's kind of resurging a little bit. It's like, it's kind of crazy, and I don't know exactly what to attribute that to. Whether it's coaching or players or scheme or, we've got so many young players playing. It might just be, exhaustion. And just playing through some of that. Maybe it's combined everything. But but I've got this weird feeling this week, and I don't know what it is, Keith, but I've got this feeling like the team is all of a sudden starting to come together. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the Pete Carroll effect, or maybe it's Gino, leading this team potentially into the playoffs or whatever, or the resurgence of the ground game in the last couple of weeks. Maybe it's the defense, the way they looked against the Jets. I know it's the Jets, but their offense is what it is. But nonetheless,
their defense is legit.
Yeah.
Their offense is terrible, but their defense is legit.
But we held their offense to 6 points, and it was a good showing. And so I am hopeful. We need to take care of business against the Rams. The Rams come in with Baker Mayfield, and they have the Rams offense. He's got them looking okay as far as offense. Cam Akers got 2 games in a row with over 100 yards rushing. Baker Mayfield has 5 touchdowns and 1 interception since he started. It's looked pretty good, close to 100 quarterback rating for them, 95.6 or 7 or something like that. Just gut, where are you at?
Well, I don't have any faith in Baker Mayfield. He is going to look good when you give him an opportunity to look good, and he's going to look bad at times because that's kind of who he is. If you look at him on a game-by-game look, right, he comes in, first game looked good against Vegas. Oh, wait, Vegas isn't very good. Second game against Green Bay, this is during Green Bay's like resurgence as they pushed from being, what were they, 4-8, and now they're 8-8. And so it was in the middle of that, and Baker was terrible. Only threw for 111 yards, quarterback rating of 67. I mean, it was awful. Then he gets to play Denver, which has quit. They completely quit on their coach and everything, and basically didn't show up. And so he looked great again. And then against the Chargers, a team that's fighting for a playoff spot and playing pretty well, and Baker did next to nothing, only threw for 132 yards. And
no
Cam
Maker had a great game, in that game, individually, but the Rams defense is interesting. They're just not that good this year, I think, which is the big difference for them. Their defense allowed Austin Eckler, for example, to rush 10 times for 122 yards and a couple touchdowns. Jalen Ramsey's not had a great year at all. He's allowing a passer rating against him of 111, which is just uncharacteristic for him. And I think that points to the difficulty that the entire defense is having. He just can't do it all, and when he doesn't have any help around him, that's what's going to happen.
Well, defense is everything about defense is complementary. Your cornerbacks will only be as good as your pass rush, and your pass rush will only be as good as your coverage, because you have to have one to have the other, and they've lost so many key players up front that
on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking at least on defense.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald's been out, like the best defensive player in the NFL, or at least the best defensive tackle. We'll go with that. And so he's been out. The pass rush hasn't existed for the most part of the year. So of course the coverage is struggling. They're being asked to cover forever.
Yeah, it all starts up front. Aaron Donald's out, obviously. You just said it, and that kind of nails it, encapsulates that. It's interesting. Both these teams have struggles in the trenches. Their offensive line is really not good. They've allowed 30 pass rush win rate, plus 30 pass rush win rate this year, 54 sacks allowed this season, both ranked 29th in the league. Going up against Seattle. Seattle has 40 sacks with a pressure rate of just under 30. So there's an opportunity there for Seattle to be able to affect that. I think Geno Smith is got an opportunity to take advantage here. Last game, which I think we won like 27-23, something like that. He threw that last second touchdown reception to DK Metcalf against Ramsey. And And both receivers had great games. Both receivers were plus 130 yards receiving in that game, 2 touchdowns combined. And that was the game that Ken Walker got hurt. So he only played in the first quarter and then that was it. We still won that game. And so I think if we've got the running game,
played really poorly in that game. Overall, they looked sluggish at first. The offense really bogged down because they couldn't get the running game going because once Walker got hurt, and they just didn't really have much else as far on the running game. Yeah, they got the 2 receivers going, but that's all. That was really all they had, and they just couldn't seem to put together long drives and stuff until they needed it at the end. And the defense played okay, but you're playing against backups and that kind of thing, and you'd expect them to look better than they did. But ultimately, it was enough. And they also won that game with playing poorly and on the road.
Yes.
Now they're going to be at home. Now everything's at stake. I don't expect them to come out and be sluggish and all of that. I expect them to be prepped, ready to go. And I expect a completely different game. Now, the Rams have upgraded at quarterback since then. But okay. Baker Mayfield's not a massive upgrade. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tough slog for them, and they don't really have any incentive other than playing well for Bobby Wagner coming back, first time back in his home stadium against his old team. So that's an interesting storyline, but that's not going to carry a team. And they're done. This is their last game. They're 5-11 coming in, likely to be 5-12. Nothing to play for. They're just kind of finishing out their season. Conversely, Seattle has everything to play for. It's a great experience for the roster. Geno Smith wants to play well, I'm sure, in this game, and kind of end, if it is an ending season game for them, and they won't know until that Detroit Green Bay game. He wants to go out looking well. He's got a contract he's playing for next year. Excuse me. He wants his team to play well and give his team an opportunity to win. And I fully expect that. And I was going to say earlier, their wide receiver group did really well against the Rams secondary, which is one of their best attributes is their secondary. And Geno was able to kind of be patient and pick that team apart. Now they've got the tight ends kind of rolling in this game. Plus Ken Walker's healthy and back. Would love a redemption game against this team to be able to go out and show that he was going to put up some numbers against them. I'd fully expect about 350, 400 yards out of this team, the Seahawks, in this game, and close to 30 points. And then on the other side, I don't see how the Rams score more than 20. Right now, I think 4 out of the last 6 games, they've only got to 17 points. This is a poor offense when they don't have all their weapons, and Baker Mayfield's just not enough.
Yeah, he is what he is. He's not a star quarterback. He's not one that's going to carry the league or carry the team. But he's not, Wolford or some of the other guys they've ran out there this year. I mean, I was just looking at their team, like, game by game for passing, and I'm like, oh, well, there's Stafford, and then there's Mayfield, and then there was Wolford in the middle, and Perkins played for a while, and he was like the starter for the Kansas City game. And then I'm like, how many quarterbacks did they have?
Yeah.
Turns out too many. And anytime you start 4 different quarterbacks in the season, it's been a long season.
Yeah, it's tough. And, they've got a lot of guys hurt. Jordan Fuller, Cooper Kupp, Jake Hummel, Joe Noteboom, Matthew Stafford, obviously, Ashawn Robinson, Allen Robinson. I mean, the list is pretty extensive. And they've got some guys that are currently hurt. I didn't even mention Aaron Donald, Brian Allen, their center, is hurt. Ben Schoeneck, their kind of slot wide receiver, has been down. So they're just they're down almost in every spot on the roster. It's one of those years. They've been pretty lucky. the last 3 or 4 years, though, with injuries, being one of the least injured teams in the NFL, kind of caught up with them this year.
Well, yeah, I mean their method of signing old players and then having them stay healthy all season wasn't going to keep working forever, because no other team that tries that ever has success.
Yeah.
It worked for the Rams for a couple of years, but now, this is it regressing to the mean.
So let me ask you this. So what do you expect? Is there, like, can you identify like 3 difference makers on offense and 3 difference makers on defense in this game where you expect those players to step up and make a difference for Seattle?
For Seattle, yeah, I mean that's actually not that hard in my opinion, because you could easily say, Metcalf, because he's been kind of not really shut down, but teams are working so hard to take him away, especially since
he was shut down last week.
But they're double teaming him on every play. They're at times triple teaming him. They are just doing everything they can to deny DK Metcalf the ball. And I don't know if the Rams are going to do that. They're not going to, I don't know if they're going to do that, because they've got Jalen Ramsey. And so they're going to lean on the fact that they've got a really good cornerback that can follow him around. Well, he did really good against Jalen Ramsey the last time they played, and I expect him to again. And if that's the case, that's a difference maker, because you look at what this offense has been able to do, and then you add a bunch of production by Metcalf, and you're going to end up with a better offense. So that's kind of where I'd go first. Ken Walker would be the next place I would go, because this is a defense that you can run on, especially with Ashawn Robinson out. And
Aaron Donald.
Yeah, I mean, but Ashawn Robinson played the last time. These two teams, and I mean, he's their big run stuffer in the middle. And now he's out. Now he's not even going to be there. So you've got the penetrator, the get in the backfield and kill people in Aaron Donald not there, and the big run stuffing, I eat up a ton of space guy. He's also going to be out. So this is the makings of a Ken Walker getting 150 yards and 2 touchdowns game, and just really leaning on the Rams throughout the game. And then you can say Geno, or you could say Lockett. I would go with one of the tight ends, a guy like Colby Parkinson, who we've seen stepping up and having a bigger role the last couple of weeks. He is such a mismatch because he's too dang tall. You can't cover him with a cornerback, because most cornerbacks aren't tall enough. He can just go up over the top of them and get it. And you can't cover him well with a linebacker, because he'll outrun him. And so he just creates a mismatch for other teams, and it's hard to game plan and scheme around, especially when the team has 2 other tight ends on the field. So you have to account for them as well.
Yeah. I was going to say pick one, because all 3 have the potential to impact a game if left open. They can all 3 catch the ball. I agree with those. In fact, those are pretty much spot on what I was thinking. And I was also thinking too, if our offensive line plays well, not just for Ken Walker and opening holes, but just protecting for Geno Smith to have time to throw. Because when Geno Smith has time to throw, he makes really good decisions with the ball when he's not rushed into throwing or having to elude a pass rush. Even though he's pretty decent at making decisions when he's on the run, but if they can create that pocket for him, man, he's tough to stop.
Hopefully he'll stop running directly backwards into sacks, because
that's been tough.
He's just been done that repeatedly this season, where he's in trouble and he tries to get out of it as if he was a young Russell Wilson by spinning and running, but he's not that guy, and gets dragged down for a 12-yard loss. I'm like, you can't take sacks like that. You got to step up. And instead of stepping backwards. If you're going to go down, step up and make it a 3-yard loss. Don't go backwards and make it a 12-yard loss. And it's like the one thing that's super frustrating for me with Geno.
And it is. And it has been during Russell Wilson's years as well. So
he did it too.
We're kind of used to it. Yeah.
He did it too. Now, with Russ, he had those plays where he would, spin out and run to his left, throw back across his body, and everyone's like, oh, don't do that. That's how you throw picks. And it ends up being an easy touchdown or something. And he had that just elusiveness, and it worked earlier in his career. As he got later into his Seattle tenure, those spin moves stopped working as well. And we started to see him take some really bad sacks. And now
he's the most sacked quarterback in the last 10 years. How about on the defensive side? How do we stop Cam Akers running the ball, and how do we stop Baker Mayfield from getting hot?
Well, I would definitely focus on stopping Cam Akers first. And that's actually a harder thing to do for Seattle than it should be, in part because Jordan Brooks is out. He's on injured reserve now. You're running out Tanner Muse and Cody Barton as your middle linebackers. And that's a less athletic, less fast, less sure tackling of a duo than when you've got Jordan Brooks out there. So I'm concerned about the fact that Cam Akers has really got himself on a roll. But I would say Cody Barton's got to have a good game. Not just, he's the quarterback of the defense now. He's making all the calls at the line and all those kind of things. And he apparently is, like, the coaches love his knowledge and his ability to do that. But you've also got to go up and make tackles. And Barton's missed a lot of tackles this year. And Cam Akers is huge and powerful. He'll run over you. And so
I think we're going to need some help up front too.
Yeah. So I'm concerned, but I think that you're going to see Cody Barton's going to get a lot of tackles. And I think Abrams, the fourth strong safety to start for Seattle, who's now the current guy in there, he's not great in coverage, but he's actually a good run support guy. He's going to be up in the box, filling lanes and making tackles. I think that's going to be a lot of how Seattle shuts down Akers. And if you can shut down Akers, this offense will grind to a halt, because Baker Mayfield is not going to carry this team by himself. He's not that guy.
Jonathan Abram, no S at the end, Keith. Yeah. And I think that Al Woods is another key player for me. It sounds like he's going to play. He's coming back. He's been injured for a couple of weeks. It'd be good to have him back in there as Seattle's primary run stopping guy. He's slightly undersized, but he's still a big guy. He knows leverage. He knows how to get in a position and take on double teams. And we need that. And we've been missing it for a couple of weeks. Yeah. Are you at all concerned about the back end?
The back end of Seattle? No. I'm not, because the Rams, their top receivers are all hurt and not playing.
That's true.
And the Seahawks still have Tariq Woolen over there to take away half the field. And Diggs has been playing better.
God, it's so amazing to hear you say that.
So what, that Diggs has been playing?
No, that Tariq Woolen's over there taking away half the field. I just can't. It's hard to get used to that again. We've been without that since Richard Sherman left, and now it's back, and I love it. It's just crazy. And to say it about a rookie, it's just mind blowing. I think he should be rookie of the year too.
I think so. I'm pretty sure Sauce Gardner is going to get it, and I don't have any problem with Sauce Gardner getting it. He leads the NFL in passes defended, where he gets his hand on it.
Only by 3 or 4.
He's still a rookie who is top in the NFL.
Oh, I know, but I mean, he's only 3 or 4 ahead of our own guy, Tariq Woolen. Yeah.
And he also plays in a bigger market, which
that's the key. Plus, there's a first-round pick.
Yep, and
is the bigger thing.
You've also got the situation where the turnaround for the Jets, how bad they were last year, especially on defense and especially on the back end of their defense. And that's their strength this year on a better team.
Yeah.
And
well, you could say that for Seattle too, but it's really defined in New York for sure.
It is. And it isn't just Sauce Gardner. I mean, DJ Reed, who they signed away from Seattle at the other cornerback spot, has also been great. They reworked that position. It went from being probably the worst group of cornerbacks in the NFL to arguably one of the best, because both of those guys can flat out play.
Agreed. And they did an excellent job against Seattle's wide receivers last week. Just did a great job. Phenomenal, really.
Both
shut down DK Metcalf and Lockett.
Yeah, both the Seattle star receivers just couldn't get catches, couldn't get into the offense. Luckily, the tight end stepped up and did a bunch of good things, and a lot of stuff out of the backfield, and the running game looked really good, and those kind of things, because they were able to shut down Seattle.
That's why I think you really got to take a look at Geno Smith as being a little better than even we're giving him credit for, because he recognized those things along with our offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, and changed things up fairly quickly. Didn't wait until halftime to make adjustments. Went to some 3 tight end sets right away. Scored our first touchdown with Tyler Mabry. That way, had a big play to Parkinson early in the game as well. I thought that and Geno Smith just showed a new level of patience that I really hadn't noticed before until his wide receiver weapons were taken away, and he was still going to those looks, but he was being patient, and the Jets have a pretty decent defensive line, and our tackles and interior line were tested in this game, and I thought Geno really stood in there and took advantage of some weaknesses in their defense, and it happened to be against them defending our tight ends and running back. DJ Dallas had a great game as well, catching the ball.
I like that he didn't try and force the ball into those guys, because they're the guys. Yes. It's like, no, we've got guys that are open. I'm going to throw it to the guys that are open. Yeah. And
he tried to force it in one time or a couple times to DK, and Sauce was right there. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. But
I mean, it's Sauce Gardner. I mean, like I said, he's a guy that I honestly believe he's going to get the defensive rookie of the year. And I don't really have a problem with it. I hope that Tariq Woolen is second in the voting, because he absolutely should be. The two of them are fighting for that.
The two of them are, they're going to face each other. Well, in a flag football game at the Pro Bowl. Okay. So getting back to this game. So let's talk predictions. Game, season's on the line. The ability to get to the next step in the playoffs is on the line. We've got to wait for that Detroit Green Bay game, but they don't know that. They got to go take care of business. What's your predictions?
I think Seattle grinds this one out, and you see Ken Walker with a lot of yards, and the offense just gets going. They get back up to where they're starting to look like they were at the beginning of the year. They end up with, let's go with 27 points. And the Rams just can't keep up. Yeah, there's Akers, but it's not enough. You can't string together drives if that's all you've got. And they end up getting some yards, but not getting a lot of points. And it ended up being something like 27-13.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in there as well. I'd like to see the Seahawks get back up to 30 points and just get that offense really going before a playoff game would be nice. I think it would be kind of crazy if we had a special teams touchdown in this game. Igwebuike has been returning the ball like crazy. Just love his fearlessness heading up in on those returns, and I'm looking for him to break one. That'd be kind of fun. Ken Walker could break one too, running the ball out of the backfield. He's got that ability on any touch. Bobby Wagner's there. That's a great matchup. I'm thinking the same.
Bobby Wagner was a big part of why the Rams hung in that game in LA.
That's true.
Because he had a monster of a game playing against his old team for the first time and all of that. And he he had a monster of a game. I don't know if we get that level of performance out of
I
Bobby Wagner again.
wouldn't doubt it though. In front of his home crowd.
I know. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like he had the best game of his season against Seattle. And there's a lot of motivation there because of that. But having gone through his like, you know, playing against his old team game once already, I don't know if that gets him up, gets him going quite like it did a few weeks ago.
Well, he knows he's done after this game, so he's going to leave it all out there. That's all I'll say about that. And
that's true.
And that's a lot. He leaves a lot out there. So, for me, I'm thinking 30 to 17. For the same reasons that you put down. I think Seattle gets rolling, and the defense continues to play well and gets it done. So, gives us a chance. That's all we can ask at this point for this team, for this roster. I think they've exceeded expectations for the talent level on this team. Seattle's made some adjustments down the road all through the season to kind of give their team a chance, give the players a chance to be successful. And I think they're playing well at the right time. And it's kind of all coming together. We got the return game going now. We've got new weapons on the offense with the tight end thing, the tight end sets, and Ken Walker's run the ball now effectively. Geno Smith is going to continue to do what he's been doing all season. And the defense is playing well. Guys like Boye Mafe and Darrell Taylor are continuing to play well for this team. Darrell Taylor's played well in the last 4 or 5 weeks, just really kind of come on. I think he had 5.5 sacks in just the last 3 games.
He had a really poor start to the season. Just was not adapting to his new role in the new scheme. Got himself essentially benched, and has fought and earned his way back onto the field and performed and been productive when he's got out there. And I love that. I mean, that's a level of grit, a level of tenacity. You can't have enough of that on your team. He didn't go pout or anything like that when he got benched. He recognized I wasn't getting it done, and I got to be better.
To his coaches. I mean, he's coachable. He had a press conference today. Was it today or yesterday? Where he came out and just said, "Hey, listen, I wasn't playing good. I listened to my coaches, though. They sent me down with some film. They sent me down with my own film, like of plays from last year where I was successful. And they said, do this again. Here's what you need to be doing." And I've been doing that, and it's working for me. So I would imagine that continues. I'm interested to kind of see if Jonathan Abram and Tanner Muse really step up in this game, because we're going to need those guys down the stretch. Jordan Brooks is out. If we get to the playoffs, he's out. Jonathan Abram, it looks like he's going to be playing for Ryan Neal. Ryan Neal hasn't practiced at all. I don't know exactly if he's going to be able to come back at all. So having Jonathan Abram out there and Tease Tabor, the other player, be able to play and play well when given opportunities is going to be important. And I like to see that in this game. Other than that, let's just go get this thing done. Find out. We'll be Detroit's second favorite fan base on Sunday night for Sunday Night Football. And it'll all come down to that. But we got to take care of our business first and win this game. So either way, we'll be back on Monday or Tuesday with another show, and we'll wrap the regular season at the very least, and look forward to the playoffs if we can get there. So that's it. Anything else?
No, I think that's good. Let's wrap this up.
Find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. You know where the show's at. Find us on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube, and hit that subscribe button. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.